Hello, BookTube. This is Weekly Reads. I've had a pretty good reading week. I started the reading week with 11-inch by Michal Witkowski and translated by W. Martin. 11-inch is a Polish gay novel about two Eastern European queer prostitutes, one of whom, Dianka, is a Slovakian who is 16, and I'm thinking she's transgender. She's also referred to as Milan, which I think is her original name or her dead name. Dianka is ill-suited for the life she's chosen. Her story is one of spiral downwards. She is borderline to actively homeless through much of the novel, and she's involved in several toxic relationships. Michal, on the other hand, the other queer prostitute, is Polish. He's much more suited for the life he's chosen. He's much more entrepreneurial, much more planning, I think. And he is also endowed with the 11 inches of the title. Both of them escaped their hometowns or home cities, and basically the novel sees them move from Vienna to Zurich, and Michal to greater success, Dianka to how the heck is she going to survive the next few weeks or months. I didn't particularly care for the novel. The writing is pretty bad, particularly at the beginning, where I wasn't sure exactly who was telling the story. Is Michal telling the whole story, including telling Dianka's story to Dianka? Or is Michal... So Dianka's story at points seems like it's being told by Michal. And then at other points it transitions to third person, limited, whereas Michal's story is always in the first person. And it's a bit hard to get a handle on, particularly early on. And the novel's also rather repetitive. Dianka is that constant spiral downward, and Michal, it's one conquest after another. So about halfway through, I decided to bail, although I did skim the rest of the book. But anyway, that was disappointing. But I will probably come back to it at some point and hopefully change my mind. The other book I read the second book I read this week, and one I actually finished two of them, but anyway. So next up was 1000 Years of Manga by Brigitte Koyama-Richard. This is a introduction to manga. If you are also subscribed to Steve Donahue's channel, you will notice a few weeks ago that he also received a copy of 1000 Years of Manga, and this is that copy. Steve was kind enough to send it to me, and I received it this past Saturday. Thank you, Steve, and I'm still working on the review. So the book is gorgeously illustrated. I mean, massively illustrated. It's not long, and fully half the book is illustrations. I mean, just pages of nothing but illustrations. It's gorgeous. So again, this is an introduction to manga through sort of the development of manga, from scroll painting to the famous ukiyo-e, woodblock printing, to manga, the first manga, which is basically just quick sketches developed by Hokusai, and then the gradual transformation of manga from just quick sketches to cartoons to comic strips and eventually comic books, which is what most people think of as manga. I thought the book was uneven. How am I trying to say this? So the introduction to Japanese art, which a lot of this book is brilliantly done, and I thought it was quite good. There are a number of manga artists that Brigitte Koyama-Richard focuses on, and they mostly refer back. I mean, they draw inspiration from and they refer back to their artistic antecedents, particularly the ukiyo-e and woodblock painting and the culture of the Edo period in general. And those sections are really well done as well, and I would love to read a book-length treatment of that alone. But when it comes to discussing modern manga, Japanese comic books, the book falters. A lot of seminal figures don't get as much attention. Don't really get much attention paid to them. Tezuka gets some, but it's a little paltry, I think. Toriyama, Oda, Kishimoto definitely don't have much attention paid to them. The sort of development of the age group demographics, or the age group genres, the shoujo, shonen, seinen, and josei, I think that's the fourth one, is really covered. And there is a fatal sort of recommendation chapter where Koyama-Richard discusses a number of manga creators and their work, and it's a bit as all such sort of recommendation or introduction chapter, it just doesn't quite work. It's muddled. But on the whole, I did rather enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to reviewing it and writing that review. So hopefully by the end of next week, I will send it off to Steve. So, even though that is a slight thing, it is quite heavy. So, over the course of the work week, I read Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. This is a novel about 11 women and one non-binary individual in the late 2010s. And basically the overarching sort of frame of the novel is that one of the characters, Ama, is a playwright, and she's written a play that is set to be premiered at the National Theatre, and it's about the last Amazons of Doheme. And So that sort of forms the backdrop, the frame for which these 12 individuals come together. And the book's divided into 4 chapters and then a wrap-up after-party chapter. So the first chapter is Amma herself, Amma's daughter Yaz, who's a university student, and Amma's best friend Dominique, who is I guess she runs a women's art or music festival in Los Angeles. And then the second chapter is about a young banker named Carol, Carol's mother Boomy, who is a cleaning lady who has formed her own company, and Carol's high school or school friend Letitia, who's become a manager at a supermarket. The third chapter focuses on Shirley, who is a teacher. Shirley's mother, Winsome, who worked as a bus driver, and Penelope, teacher who was a colleague of Shirley's for a while. And the fourth section is about Megan or Morgan, the non-binary individual who becomes a social media influencer. Hattie, Morgan's great grandmother, and Grace, Morgan's great great grandmother. And so on the surface it looks like these 12 individuals outside of the individual chapters don't have any connections, but they do. Shirley is a friend of Amma's, and Shirley taught Carol and Letitia. And Morgan gave a talk that Yaz attended, and there's an even bigger connection between some of the characters that really forms the sort of punch of the book at the very end. And it is just, I love this book. I just absolutely loved it. It was a glorious reading experience, and I'm really happy that I loved it. I've been wanting to really love a novel for months now, if not years, and finally happened, so yay. If I had any critiques of the novel, I think the time sort of sometimes it's a bit wonky, but I mean, it's stream of consciousness, it still works out. But anyway, so I really, really loved Girl, Woman, Other. So, over the course of the next reading week, I will be reading some works of history that I've been meaning to get to for a while. First up is The Greeks, A Global History by Roderick Beaton. This is a big history of the Greeks from the Mycenaean period to the present, and I've been looking forward to reading this for months now. And after I finish off with the Greeks, I'm going to the Persians by Lloyd Llewellyn-Jones. This is a history of the Achaemenid or Persian Empire, or the First Persian Empire, that I'm looking forward to reading as well. So, quite looking forward to them. Excuse me. So that's my reading plans for this week, or this coming week. I'm also planning on working some more on my review of 1000 Years of Manga. I finally kind of come to it, like figured out my thesis and sort of structured the review, so hopefully that'll give me some into writing it, which I'll do kind of tonight and into this weekend and into the next week. And hopefully it turns out well. I'm also going to be so videos for next week. There are two, I think there might be more than two tags that I want to do, so hopefully I'll get to them next week, and maybe some more discussion videos, because those I like doing them, even though they're a bit hard for me to get into. But anyway, one thing I did forget to mention in my reading plans for the rest of the year is I'm also thinking seriously about reading along with the Cundell History Prize. The Cundell History Prize is one of the most important history prizes, and over the past few years I've kind of started to get interested in it and aware of it, and I've been thinking about following along with it, but I don't know. We'll see how that goes and how busy I am reading wise the rest of the year. As far as what I've been watching, it's mostly been BookTube. I've also been watching some art videos the last few evenings, which have been fun. I've really enjoyed that. But I really should get back to watching like Netflix and some of my other streaming services. Otherwise, I really should think about getting rid of them or unsubscribing from them. So anyway, so I'm rambling right now, so I'm going to go ahead and end the video. Thank you, BookTube. Have a great evening and weekend, and I will see you hopefully on Monday with either a tag or a discussion video. So until then, thank you and stay safe.